My golden child brother thought sleeping with my wife would be overlooked because he's the favorite son. But turns out, this was the last straw for everyone. Now, my parents have cut him off completely, refusing to fund his lifestyle, and made me the sole heir of their $2 million inheritance. Suddenly, my brother's reaching out, saying he regrets everything and wants to start fresh. Our wedding was a small but peaceful ceremony. Our parents were happy for us, and we had a good time at our wedding. At that moment, I believed she was the love of my life. I always held the mindset that I wanted monogamy in life, one woman to come home to and be with for the long haul. Despite women trying to engage with me over the years, I never pursued anything because I was genuinely content in my marriage. Karen was my dream girl, and I never wanted to hurt her. However, over the years, there were 2 occasions when I discovered she was being unfaithful in our marriage. One was an off-and-on affair that lasted a few years with her married coworker, and the other was a fling with an ex she had dated in high school when she went to visit her family states away. I'm sure there will be people who might call me foolish, and looking back, I can't really deny it myself. After a period of separation in both situations, I made the decision to forgive my wife. I never wanted to raise my child in a broken home, and I genuinely believed we could overcome these challenges. We were quite young when the situation with her coworker occurred, so I chalked it up to youthful mistakes and not thinking things through. For a while, things seemed okay with us. I could never fully trust her, but I tried my best to push aside my doubts because I knew that if I chose to forgive her, I had to work towards moving past it and starting with a clean slate. It's been 4 years since the second time she was unfaithful, and I felt like I made the right decision by giving her a chance to show that she still wanted to be in our marriage. For years, Karen seemed to have changed, and we were genuinely happy with plans set in motion for the future of our family. However, 3 months ago, my reality was once again shattered by yet another incident, which, in my mind, was far worse than the others. She revealed that she had been sleeping with someone for quite some time and suggested that our son might not even be mine. Hearing her words, I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. A mix of shock, betrayal, and disbelief overwhelmed me. I struggled to comprehend the enormity of what she had just disclosed. In the days that followed, I managed to ask her why she had kept such a significant secret and how she could have done something so devastating. Her reaction was a cold and indifferent demeanor. She seemed detached, almost unbothered by the pain she had inflicted. Her responses were vague, leaving me with more questions than answers. It was a surreal and painful moment, confronting the shattered trust and the uncertainties about my own family. I continued to ask Karen to tell me the truth because I felt like I deserved to know who the father of the child was since I had been literally raising our son since the beginning. In the end, she admitted that it was Caleb. My eyes widened in shock as I asked her what exactly she meant by that. This is when Karen told me how she and Caleb had become friends back when I had introduced Karen to my family and she had stayed with us for Thanksgiving up until the New Year's. I remember Caleb, who was usually cold to me, was quite polite and warm towards her. I was glad since I did not want to make Karen feel unwelcome. She wanted to be accepted into my family, so she would spend significant time hanging out with my mom whenever she could. She noticed that Caleb and I were not that close and questioned me about it. I finally opened up to her about my childhood equation with Caleb and told her how we might never be able to repair our relationship since he never could move past his feelings. Karen understood. However, she started to include Caleb whenever we would go out, perhaps hoping that both of us would warm up to each other. If we were going to watch a movie, she would invite Caleb, and then we would have to watch whatever movie Caleb wanted to watch. I guess during this time Caleb and I did talk a few words here and there, which was a significant improvement compared to how he had been giving me the silent treatment for years. I do remember Karen and Caleb would hang out and play video games together, but I never thought much about it. Karen told me how one day Caleb opened up to her about his struggles and his recent breakup with his then ex-girlfriend. He seemed so vulnerable with her, and they struck up a friendship. She said how he would sometimes harmlessly flirt with her when I was not around, and apparently, one thing led to another, and she could not control herself anymore. I closed my eyes as the vision of my wife and brother sleeping together almost made me puke. She told me how guilty she felt after that and ran away from him. After that, she decided to go back home, which was true because my girlfriend had abruptly told me how she wanted to go back home when I thought she would be spending the New Year's with me. I tried to convince her to stay, but she was adamant that she had to go. After the holidays, when we met in college once our classes resumed, she was back to her usual cheerful self, so I never questioned anything. 2 weeks after that, we found out that she was pregnant. Now Karen told me that she had no idea whether it was really my child or Caleb's, and she had no way to find proof. Because I was already stepping up, she knew out of the two, I was a more dependable brother, so she decided to stay with me, and this is why we got married. I felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. The son I had loved and spent countless hours with may not even be mine. I questioned her if she had been sleeping with Caleb in recent times, and she nodded slowly. Karen told me how she and Caleb had always stayed in touch because their chemistry was undeniable. They would sneak off to hotels when she would lie to me that she was working overtime. She told me how half of her business trips were just romantic getaways with him. I asked Karen why she would even be married to me if she really wanted my brother, but Karen told me how she did not want to be the one to break off a marriage, and seeing how I was such a wonderful father to our son, she had stayed with me all this while. In her words, she had made a mistake, and she didn't know when to stop. I simply told Karen that I was glad that she told me the truth and that I was going to pack up and move out. Karen started to cry and ask for my forgiveness, telling me how I was supposed to scream and yell at her, but here I was, calmly thinking of my next move. I remained quiet while I walked to my cupboard and started packing some of my clothes into my suitcase. Karen kept saying how if I really loved her, then I should try to at least fight for her, and mistakes happen in every marriage. When she realized that I was not going to do anything, she changed her tactic and told me how my son would be affected if we got a divorce and how children should not be brought up in a broken home. I reminded her how I may not even be the father, which then reduced her to tears, and she started to yell at me about being cruel and how I could easily walk away when I had been there for the child since his birth. It seemed like my wife believed there was nothing that could make me want out of our marriage. I guess it was partly my fault for letting a lot slide in the past. While I did have some love for her, it felt more like it stemmed from the fact that I thought we had a son together and had been together since college. Karen continued to claim that it was not too late and that we could work things out, but I struggled to believe it and felt like I had no more patience to deal with her. Trust was a major issue for me, and her words felt empty. Even if I forgave her, I could never forget that she had slept with my own brother. I've always believed that people could make mistakes and be forgiven because we're all flawed, but this went beyond a certain limit. Now comment update to tag you on part 3.